Caitlin Clark continues to make news. It's Caitlin Clark's world, and we're just living in it. Got off to a little bit of a slow start. The criticism was heavy. As I've said, the players in the WNBA, they didn't exactly form a welcome wagon for Caitlin Clark. She was denied being on the Olympic team. That's not looking real smart right now. I said at the time she should have been on the Olympic team simply to promote the women's game. And now you look at how Caitlin Clark is playing, and I think the transition period from the college game to the pro game has already largely taken place for her. Because now we're starting to see why I said she is the female Larry Bird. You saw her pass the ball at Iowa, but she was a scoring machine there. In the WNBA, we are seeing she's leading the league in assists. Another triple-double last night. Her second triple-double of the season. And you know what? I think that puts her number 4 all-time already on the WNBA career triple-doubles list. The WNBA has not exactly been full of Magic Johnsons and Oscar Robertsons through the years, in case you're wondering. And the point is, I think, of everything, beyond how great her game is that we're talking about her, we're talking about the WNBA. The WNBA has probably gotten more attention this year than in the history of the entire league, which dates back to the mid-1990s. Caitlin Clark there, take a look at that. She already has more triple-doubles than 99.63% of players who have played in the WNBA. There's only like 5 women that have 2 or more triple-doubles, I think, in the history of the league. It's something like that. She's going to go to the head of that class very quickly. Take a look at this. 24, 10, and 10. Last night, the Indiana Fever continuing to surge. They were in 6th place, I think, in the playoff race. This is after a 1-8 start to the season. It took them a while to catch up to her. We saw the highlights earlier in the season. She'd make a great pass, and her teammates weren't ready for it. They'd never played with anybody like her. They're adjusting. She's adjusting. And I think there's a very good argument that she's the best women's basketball player in the world right now. And she's certainly on the very short list. Charles Barkley recently had some comments about how the WNBA, and the criticism has been there. I've criticized it. Other people have criticized it. Charles Barkley says the WNBA botched Caitlin Clark's entry into the league. Let's take a look at Sir Charles's comments about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA.
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. People believe what we say on television. Just because people don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. This girl is incredible. The number of attention, eyeballs she's brought to college and the pros, and for these women to have this petty jealousness, you say to yourself, damn, what is going on here? And the thing I love about her, she never says a word. But these ladies, who I love and respect their game, they couldn't have this thing up any worse. There's been so much negativity, and a lot of it is just petty jealousness.
Charles Barkley is absolutely fucking right. And guess what? Charles Barkley is also absolutely fucking wrong. He's right that these players are petty. Tom Petty, as Danny McBride said, and this is the end. These WNBA players, they have been Tom Petty. Petty. And I don't want to give them credit for that, because they haven't had the best interest of the WNBA at heart. They hated on this girl, this woman. who came into the league playing a different game than any of them had ever seen before. The Cheryl Swoopses of the world, retired players, right? Current players. Diana Taurasi. She's the Eastern Conference Player of the Month. She's the Player of the Week. She's the Rookie of the Month. She is reality. Reality has descended upon the WNBA, and a lot of these women didn't like it. They didn't like it one fucking bit. And so they lashed out. They made dumb comments. They criticized the cash cow, the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. The woman who has done the impossible. Take a look at these numbers over the course of the last 4 games. 24, 9, and 5, hitting over 4 threes a game. Get ready for it. It's coming. The next decade belongs to Caitlin Clark. There's a lot of these women, they're not down for it. And I don't want to give them credit. But here's where Sir Charles is absolutely wrong. You ever hear of P.T. Barnum? Barnum and Bailey Circus? Famous showman, a guy who knew something about generating publicity. He once said famously, there is no such thing as bad publicity. We're talking about the WNBA, and would we be talking about it as much if these WNBA players hadn't been so shitty to Caitlin Clark? I don't think so. I don't think so. Caitlin Clark would be generating interest either way, yes. But she has been cast as the protagonist in this sort of battle against injustice. The Mean Girls have been giving her shit, and it has made us love her more. The soap opera aspect. Those Mean Girls didn't do it for the right reason. They didn't get together and say, hey, we'll play the bad guys so that you got a villain. Remember Michael Jordan, Detroit Pistons? Robert Griffin III tweeting about it. Robert Griffin III. He's right about this. There has been so much hate against her. But you know what? That hate has elevated things. Here's another quote for you. Have you ever heard of Oscar Wilde? Irish poet. Here's an Oscar Wilde quote. There's only one thing in the world worse than being talked about. And that's not being talked about. How much have we talked about the WNBA over the course of the last 30 years? So you can sit here and say the WNBA players have been petty, they've been foolish, they've been stupid, they've committed cheap shots against her in games, they have taken cheap shots at her on social media. And you'd absolutely be fucking right about all of it. And I don't want to sit here and say, oh, well, good on you for being stupid. But guess what? Inadvertently, these women, I think, have elevated the stature of the WNBA season because at least there's been something interesting as a narrative to follow off of the court. Jordan against the bad boy Pistons. The New York Yankees when they were the evil empire, right? Sports needs villains. Do you think we would give such a shit about the Miracle on Ice if it wasn't for the fact that everybody hated the fucking Soviet Union? There needs to be an Ivan Drago for Rocky to knock out. And so every time Caitlin Clark goes out and succeeds, we all know, even though she's too nice to say it, we all know that she's sticking it to all these players that attacked her unfairly, both in the media and on the court. And I've come around. It's maybe the best thing that could have possibly fucking happened to the WNBA. Because now we got a story. Now we got something that we're following, both on the court, off the court. And it has made us love Caitlin Clark even more. And so for that, I think maybe the great Charles Barkley has it wrong in the broader context. Let's bring in now the international streaming star. He's my sidekick, my buddy, the great Ronnie T-Shirts. Ronnie, as you and I have said many times, we're paying attention to the WNBA for the first time, really, that we ever have in our life. Just the fact that we're talking about it on this program as often as we do, I think is testimony to the fact that probably whatever has gone on in the WNBA this season, even though I haven't liked everything that I've seen, it's probably been good for the league.
I'm going to put this in perspective for you and everybody else that's watching right now. Are you ready? The NFL kicks off in 9 hours. You led the show with this. Pretty impressive what Caitlin Clark's doing to the pulse of the nation, the sports nation. The fact that this is more interesting than talking about how's Patrick Mahomes going to do tonight against the Ravens defense. I mean, I'm super excited about the game tonight. I will 100% be watching, but the NFL kicked off in 9 hours, Ricky. And this is what we talked about.
It would have seemed impossible. It would have been impossible before Caitlin Clark.
It's crazy, right?
And you know what? If Caitlin Clark was just in the league playing well and everybody around the league was just, oh, we're so happy Caitlin's here, we all love her so much, we would have led with the NFL today probably. It's not just her talent. Her talent alone is not the reason that people are so interested. There has to be a friction. Sports needs friction, as I said earlier. There is no Rocky without Apollo and Clubber Lang and Drago. Duke. I've always said, like when it comes to college basketball, my favorite team is whoever's playing Duke. I've chilled on that some, but for a long time, that was how I felt. You need villains in sports, and guess what? Villainous, petty, acting selfishly and shitty WNBA players are better than these nameless, faceless avatars that they've had for 30 years. That, as you said the other day on this very program, Cheryl Swoops was irrelevant to you. A great player, but irrelevant. Didn't move the needle in mainstream American sports journalism and fandom. And now that's what we got. And I do not think, as great as Caitlin Clark is, we would be talking about her as much. Even in college, Angel Reese with the whole, pointing at the ring finger or whatever when Iowa lost to LSU a couple of years ago. Right? That shit gets people talking. All you got to do is look around the media landscape. We love controversy. And we've gotten it in the WNBA. And so Charles is absolutely right. He's right, Ron. They didn't handle this with class. But guess what? It's a gift, nonetheless.
I mean, is that true, or are they just evil masterminds that scripted this whole thing, figured it out, and said, we've got the perfect storm right now, and we can do this? And even Caitlin's in on it. And that's why Caitlin's not saying anything publicly. It's just something to think about, Ricky. I am kidding. I don't think
WNBA brought to you by Vince McMahon. Is what you're suggesting. I don't think they could carry it off, Ron.
So I also had this thought about Caitlin. First of all, anybody that thinks that anybody but Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year is an insane person. You're an insane person with an agenda that has nothing to do with who's the best player, who's the best rookie in the WNBA. But think about this. She's going to be so good next year, Ricky, because not only will she have a year under her belt, but you realize she came straight from an entire college basketball season straight into the WNBA with virtually no rest. So her second season in the WNBA, she's going to have a full off season. She's going to get bigger and stronger. She's going to get rested. She is going to be a terror next year, an absolute terror.
She's going to be an absolute terror for about the next 10 or 15 years. And the Fever certainly don't think there's a debate about who the Rookie of the Year is. I don't think any thinking person who is following this can make a cogent argument, because Angel Reese is the alternative, right?
Right.
Angel Reese is a pretty one-dimensional player. She is a very good rebounder. About 25% of her rebounds are her own misses because she couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat, even from 4 feet away from the basket. The statistics back this up. This isn't me talking shit about Angel Reese. She's shooting 43% from inside of 5 feet?
Yeah.
And a lot of her rebounds are of her misses. She's like the big kid in Little League who misses, rebounds their own miss, misses, rebounds their own miss. She can't shoot. She's not a great passer. She's not a good dribbler. She's a better rebounder than Caitlin Clark. That's about it. Okay? I'm not saying Angel Reese isn't a useful player. I'm not saying that she won't have a long and productive WNBA career. She is a useful player, and she likely will have a distinguished career in the league. But man, she's not even anywhere in the stratosphere of Caitlin Clark. There's just no question about it. Caitlin Clark has so made her way into the stream of American consciousness. She was the answer to a Jeopardy question. Let's take a look at this.
In 2024, this Iowa athlete sunk one of her trademark logo three-pointers and set the all-time NCAA women's scoring record. Amy.
It was Clark.
Caitlin Clark, yes.
There you go. You make it on Jeopardy. That's when you know that you've really made it, Ronnie. That's my goal one day.
I was just going to say, you think you're ever going to be the answer to a Jeopardy question?
This bearded motherfucker created a Twitter account that makes jokes about the 1970s. Who is Grizzly Adams? I don't fucking know, Ron. It's probably not going to happen. I can hold out for hope, but probably not too fucking likely. Speaking of Super 70s sports, let's take a look at the poll of the day that I like to post over there. I came strong today with the options, Ron. I tried to bring it with I tried to throw 4 fastballs today, is what I tried to do with today's poll. And if we have that, I don't know if we've got it or not. Let's take a look at it if we have it. I believe the options today were Led Zeppelin, Hank Aaron, Burritos, and there's a batting order for you, huh? Leading off with Led Zeppelin, Hank Aaron in the 2-hole, Burritos batting third, and Jim Rockford cruising around. America's private investigator, if I may say so, from the Rockford Files. So a big decision today for producer Tim, and indeed for all of America. I learn things about my producer every day. And Led Zeppelin kind of just cruising here. Look at that, top to bottom. It's like I started strong and subconsciously just got weaker with each option, Ron. I don't think that you're a huge Led Zeppelin fan from what I understand.
You know,
I'm going to guess that you would. I feel like you probably went with Burritos.
Listen, when you don't know, you just go with what Fat Ron would pick. Food. So Burritos.
Well, I don't know. Svelte Ron is more like it. You're looking sexy in that OutKick t-shirt today, Ron.
I mean, this is a nice color on me, isn't it? It's like kind of a salmon, bright salmon.
It's really, yeah. I love that. I love the color on that. Yeah, it plays well with your skin tone. I think. I don't fucking know. I'm lucky to dress myself most days, Ron.
Yeah. I think I think again on your poll, I think Rockford Files is, you love the Rockford Files. I know you do, but I don't think it's universally loved. It's not hated by any stretch. You could have come in with
my
a little bit
audience
stronger
always
TV show.
responds to it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's a strong fucking TV show, man, and my audience loves it. When I post Rockford Files stuff, the response is always great. But music, that's food and music really both do well in this game. Music, really
I agree.
performs very well.
Well, if you think about
Led
it, Ricky,
Zeppelin is no doubt great, but
you're a sociologist. I think this might fit into your area of expertise. Think about what food and music both do. They really affect your pleasure center, right? And so I think that's probably why those two do very well, because if you put Hank Aaron, I'm not going to have a real, is the right term, visceral response. I'll think about Hank Aaron and be like, wow, he was really good. But man, I can think about a burrito and I can get the juices flowing. And you think about a song and it takes you back to a certain place. So I think that's probably why those two things do so well. I do have a favorite.
Remember when you lost your virginity, Ron?
Yep.
Remember when you lost your virginity and you'd thrown on Purple Rain?
I believe Doves were crying.
Nobody throws on like Hank Aaron highlights to get laid. It's like, hey baby, let me dim the lights and let's go back to 1974 when Hank Aaron hit number 715.
You're on fire today.
You don't put on the Rockford Files for that.
You are on fire.
You don't even throw a burrito on in a skillet. So that's a good argument you made.
I do have a favorite Led Zeppelin song.
Okay, let's hear it.
I believe it's called Black Dog. Does that say, hey mama, say the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove? That it? Am I right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's my favorite Led Zeppelin song.
Well, it's right up there. I'm not sure. I like That's the Way. Mellow.
Wasn't that Casey and the Sunshine Band?
Led Zeppelin. No, that's the way that they liked it. Led Zeppelin was like, that's the way Mama said it's gonna be. I don't know.
Like an awesome song.
It's a great song. Look it up. Yeah, Fool in the Rain. Producer Tim says, Fool in the Rain. Okay, well, speaking of fools, Antonio Brown is making some noise on social media. Isn't he the one who hashtags everything CT ESPN? Ron, this is a perfect fucking storm, Ron, that we got going here. Get this. I don't know if you're following it. Antonio Brown is apparently sliding into the DMs of Josie Canseco, who is Jose Canseco's lovely 20-something-year-old. Apparently she's like, one of these Instagram models or whatever. She's blonde, she's tan, she's above average attractive. She's dating Johnny Manziel. Okay, so she's dating Johnny Football. She's Canseco's kid. So, nothing against Johnny Manziel, who seems like he kind of has his life somewhat together from what I'm gathering, but does anything say dating Johnny Manziel like being raised by Jose Canseco? You wonder how it's not exactly hard to connect those dots, is it? And now Antonio Brown comes into the equation, I guess sliding into her DMs. We have not heard from Johnny Manziel, but Antonio Brown called Jose Canseco a geezer, which I guess is in response to the fact that Jose Canseco is got some pay-per-view home run derby with like this guy. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but it is his name's iPad Pete. What's his fucking name? I don't know who the hell this guy is, but he's going to have a home run derby with Jose Canseco on October 5th, apparently. And tickets are on sale So, like, what level have you descended to in your life when you pay money to consume Jose Canseco in a home run derby in 2024 with some fucking social media influencer, Ron? I don't even know where to begin to unpack all of this. It's like a Mad Libs of stupidity, this
Would you?
story.
So if I told you that I would pay for that streaming for you, and I'd give you $100, and I'd let you DoorDash anything you wanted up to $100, would you watch it?
Yes.
No, you
For a free meal at $100, of course I would fucking watch it.
you'd have to watch the whole thing.
Well, how long is it?
I
I'm
don't know, but
assuming it won't take that long.
I bet there's an undercard.
I'm in for like 90 minutes for $100 and a free meal because I'll get a steak or something.
Yeah.
I'll
No.
watch Jose Canseco try to hit home runs at age 55
You know, this is
or ever how old he is if you're going to pay me.
This seems to be this thing with Canseco is like, think about all the guests that you've had on so far. We've had on the show so far, and we leave every one of them just going, man, that's a good dude. His life's together. Like, I like that guy, right? Canseco is, how old is he? He's over 60 now. He's a freaking mess still.
He's probably around 60. Yeah.
He's still a mess. You know, he did like a boxing match 2 or 3 years ago with and he went up against the Barstool Kid, and the Barstool Kid beat his ass. He just keeps doing this stuff. It's like, speaking of irrelevant, he just, I don't know. I mean, I guess if he's getting money, he's paying his bills, but it's sad.
It says a lot that there are 3 men involved in this story, and Johnny Manziel is probably the one who's doing the best.
He's the sanest.
You know? Yeah, Johnny Manziel actually comes off as the only person who's not insane in
The
this
wise
story.
old sage.
Well, the girl as well, I suppose. Yeah, Johnny Manziel. You know, sometimes I like to tweet, Ron. I think we got time to look at maybe one or two here this morning. Couple of evergreen classics. This is one of my all-time favorites. People ask me frequently, what are your favorite tweets? What do you think are your best tweets? This is on the short list, although again, most of the heavy lifting was done for me. All I really had to do was present it. My job was basically just don't fuck it up with whatever the caption is. But this is Ahmad Rashad's wedding to Felicia Rashad, who was, of course, Claire Huxtable on America's most beloved sitcom of the 1980s, with apologies to Cheers. I do think The Cosby Show was America's most beloved sitcom at the time, even though we can no longer talk about it and it didn't happen, Ron. But there they are getting married. You can see Debbie Allen from Fame, Felicia Rashad's sister, has a look on her face like she knows that this isn't a good idea. And then O.J. Simpson there is standing up with Ahmad Rashad. Has there ever been a greater anti-blessing upon a marital union than occurred on this day, Ronnie?
I don't think so, but I just think it's fantastic that two of your better tweets, in my estimation, both involved O.J. Simpson. Like, what a gift he was to you.
Ron, the thing is, like, you look at this, right? You've got the guy he can pick anybody he wants. He picks a double murderer and a serial rapist. You know, was the ring bearer Jared from Subway? Is he just like out of the cap? Is he just too short to be in the photo?
Oh goodness.
Was I
Who's the flower girl?
Who else was in consider? Who was the flower girl? Like
Yeah,
Squeaky Frome? You know, I don't know what's going on here, but it's hard to fuck it up worse than that. Speaking of fucking things up, I'm not going to say that this was fucked up. This is probably a slice of genius, if it's anything. Look at this. It's a Newport cigarette ad, and as you know, Ron, I like to have fun with cigarette ads on the feed. And there are a lot of just bonkers, Don Draper, Mad Men, guys who went out for lunch and had a few too many martinis and then went back into the office and were like, hey, I got an idea for this cigarette ad. Look at this motherfucker. He's out on the beach. He's got a hot chick there in a bikini, and he's just working a trombone. And somebody went in to the ad agency with that idea, and there was at least a couple of other guys who listened to it and liked it. What do you think that meeting was like, Ron?
Yeah, I look at this and I just think to myself, I'm just wondering, the next time you take a lady friend to the beach, maybe to the river, some body of water, what instrument are you going to pull out?
Pulling out an acoustic guitar is so cliche, Ron.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody does that. How many times have we seen it? Oh, here comes the acoustic guitar. He's going to play a song for me. This motherfucker grabs a trombone, pulls it out like he's a member of the fucking Lawrence Welk Orchestra.
You know what I could see
starts
you with?
blowing that fucking thing.
Bass, like a big bass. I could see you with a big bass. Like you bring your lady out,
yeah,
and you're like, hey, hold on, I forgot something in the car, and you go back and you get this big case, put that thing down.
Listen, the bigger the instrument, the bigger the radius of flavor, the bigger the circle of love that you have created. I just love the thought of some guy walking into an ad agency in Midtown Manhattan and saying,
I've got
Hear me out. Hear me out on this. There's a guy, there's a girl, they're on the beach, trombone, magic. I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.